Welcome to the AI Security Update, hosted by Dr. Anmol Agarwal, where we break down the latest in AI and security with experts on the front lines, focused on what you need to know without the hype. Welcome to the AI Security Update, where we discuss the latest in AI and security. I'm excited to introduce our guest for today, Larci Robertson. Larci, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Anmol.
So, can you introduce yourself and your background?
Sure. So I am from the Navy, U.S. Navy. Spent 10 years in the Navy, early 2000s, for, s- for 10 years doing cryptologic technician and signals intelligence. And I got my first taste of cybersecurity in the Navy at the Cyber Defense Operations Command. But I've done a ton of different technology roles, mostly involving some sort of intelligence, either in support for a system administrator or teaching people what basic level intelligence is, and then moving on into the government, working with them in different capacities, and then corporate America as a cyber threat intelligence analyst, which is where I started. In the Navy, is doing those types of things, and then in the last 5 years, I've been in sales and consulting and being an advisor in different capacities for practicing incident response, tabletops, ransomware, using lots of different tools. And I've been well aware that we've been using artificial intelligence in some capacity for the last almost 3 decades in the work that I've done, just in the such large data sets and how we piece together things, and how much easier it is when you have those types of tools that are doing a lot of the brain work for you, instead of the analog, which we did used to do, is piece together a pinboard on a map and lines and drawing and trying to figure out what's going on. And then fast forward today, we were able to do that with technology. And the geniuses out there building these tool sets. So it's it's come a long way compared to where I started. But yeah, that's my background for now.
Yeah, Larcy and I actually met through Women of Security. So
Yeah.
we're friends and we're both based in Dallas. So I knew Larcy had to be on the show. Her great background with cyber threat intelligence. I think that's something people aren't really paying attention to right now. And this technology, even though it seems really new, a lot of the fundamentals remain the same, even from decades previously. So it's important for us to know about the fundamentals. So, Larcy, one question I have for you is how has AI security been applied to different scenarios based on your experience?
It's really just put things at scale, like force multiplier, I would say, because, like I said before, one person can't analyze such large data sets. So there have been some tools that have been applying these things if it comes to SaaS security or endpoint detection, using threat intelligence platforms to build all of that information and pull things together for you. Those types of things have been around, and I've been utilizing them for years. Today I'm seeing some super, awesome advancements in providing way more guidance on that, giving you the details, and putting it all together without having to piecemeal, because that seems to be what we've been doing. So I think this is going to advance the piecemealing, and everybody loves to, get a little cringe and say, don't use that single pane of glass thing. But that's exactly what AI is going to be able to do. It's actually going to give us that by piecing it together using AI and seeing it in a much larger scale to make our analysts much bigger, or bigger, much better equipped to do analysis and make decisions. I'll say one thing though that kind of worries me a little bit, but if we're using all of these AI tools with chatbots and things to help us, guide us, give us those things, we can't just let them go. Because if you think about it, if you brought in 12 interns, and we'll equate those to chatbots, they're very well educated and they know a lot. but they don't actually have the experience, and you want to make sure that those bots are being supervised like you would an intern, and give them guidance and make sure that you're checking their work and saying, yeah, that's right, or no, absolutely not, because we know they're not perfect. But as we go, for now, we're going to have to um, you know just gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to try it. We're gonna have to put it in place and make things better as we go, because if we kind of hinder away from it, it's gonna get away from us. And I feel like we just keep putting our best foot forward in monitoring, still having the expertise to know what right looks like, according, versus an AI. Um, that's what's going to make us better in the long run. So don't worry, all you experts out there, you're still necessary. And so we're just going to have to work together on how we make the best of use of AI.
So, next question I have is just think about current events or whatever is happening in the AI security space and just pick one current event that you think people should know about and they should monitor right now.
I think you really need to look at what is being provided in the public space, with AI. Are they using you for, teaching a model? Is it real? And I kind of see this in a little bit of the job market search, when we're looking at companies that are trying to place you. And there's different tools to automatically apply. There's lots of different new crazy titles that I've never heard of, that might be just you becoming the AI expert, in a capacity that they're paying you to help. Just be aware that that might be your place, and maybe this is a new career of being, an expert for the AI, not necessarily an AI expert, but saying you're, a doctor or a physicist, and you're trying to enhance a tool that needs that expertise. Just like I told you before, like we need to make sure that we're paying attention and monitoring the new bots that are being utilized, because they're not right. Sometimes they're completely wrong. They could be also, sabotaged by, an attacker. So there's lots of things that we need to really pay attention to, when it comes to the offerings in the public space, even in our daily lives. Like, what are they gathering from you? What are you so willingly able to give them? Because um, it's kind of scary, the things that we're giving a stranger, basically, in a chatbot scenario with ChatGPT. Lots of people are using it for their personal lives, but it goes into our everyday, stuff too. So I think just being aware that that is something that could be happening, that you just don't know.
Yeah, you touched on one thing that I think we see in the industry is this idea of using AI to apply for jobs. So people are using ChatGPT to just create their resume and then again send to an AI, and then the AI judges the AI created resumes. So
Yes.
now it's like people aren't talking to each other anymore. To actually get that first interview, you need to pass the AI screen, and
Yes.
it's just a mess right now.
Agree. Yeah. Getting past the AI is tough. Using an AI.
And then one other thing you talked about was this idea of some jobs exist now where you're going to be the expert for the AI, the subject matter expert. And just for our audience, there are some jobs out there where they'll say, you know, label this data for the AI model. Like I get LinkedIn messages like that where they say, we'll pay you so much an hour. You just label the AI for us. And you're basically providing expertise to the AI model. But it's really difficult, I think, to discover what is a real job versus what someone is trying to just scam you into applying for. So, any advice on that? How do you determine whether the position is legitimate or not?
Investigate, ask if other people have tried it. This is
Yeah.
a community effort in this way. They're using the community to, boost up whatever it is they're trying to build. So asking around, because I don't think all of them are scams, because I do think we should be asking experts to fill those, make sure this is good. I don't know what other way would be to do that except get actual people to label things. But I also think that they're getting those free by sending out, please apply to this job that is not real, it's fake. whatever. And it's tough too because I think a lot of companies are putting jobs out there that aren't actually available. I've been applying for months, and sometimes I get to they've sat on it for a long time. We've decided not to fill this job. So what were they doing with our applications? Were they using them for their own AI? Are they trying to discover, build a model for their hiring practices to look for the right candidate? I don't know. But I can't blame them, but it stinks for us to look out and see thousands and thousands of job recs when there's probably only a few hundred. So it's a tough thing. So the scamming, or just I don't know if I wouldn't call them fake, but they're not real openings. They might be in the future, but right now they aren't. So it's kind of frustrating, I think. But investigating, asking around, are these, people that work there, or, just doing your own investigations on what the job is, where they're posting it, how they're actually getting applications. What do they require you to do? I just had a company recently have me go through some sort of questionnaire of aptitude. I'm like, I've been in the industry for over 20 years. Is this really necessary that I'm like looking at patterns and picking out which one's next? Like that's a weird thing. But I was like, let me see how far this goes. But those are questions that I have. Like, what is the point here? Are you seriously trying to correlate whether or not I can see patterns on whether or not I'm an expert in cybersecurity? I don't see the exactly in that simple task of where that is, but, let's see what's going on with this stuff and see how they're using. I've got lots of questions I'm going to ask, like, "So what's the data? What'd you get from me versus someone else?" Like, I wanna know because I know I took something very similar to join the Navy, but that's more to place me in a job that would be best suited. This is I'm applying for a position. This is the one. Either I'm good or I'm not, and this shouldn't be a test to say that, in my opinion. But anyway, very interesting stuff that they're using for hiring purposes.
Yeah, and I think one challenge we're seeing in the job market is it's getting more and more competitive. And there are two sides to this equation, right? There are the entry level candidates. They're just starting their career and they have a hard time getting in now because, AI versus AI. And then there's also people like yourself, so qualified, highly experienced, and the companies, they have this process that's, I think, catered towards the entry level or catered towards gathering data. Because a lot of these aptitude tests and skills assessments, I remember doing it, for entry level jobs. But it's like, for example, a cybersecurity professional. We might not need to do a lead code interview, like a coding interview they would give a fresh college graduate who just took their computer science courses. Like, okay, we're not touching the code every day, but we do have experience and skill sets that the company will need and should value. But I think that's one challenge we're seeing in the job market is it's really hard, for I think everyone, but especially entry level experienced people. I mean, even mid level, to be honest, it's just really difficult. And I think there's also this debate about is AI automating some of these processes for recruiting and hiring, and then that's also causing unintended consequences as well.
Right. Automation is
Yeah.
great. However, if it's not supervised, then, you're throwing great candidates into the garbage on accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw another thing on LinkedIn about they have these recruiters that are reaching out to people and they're fake profiles. So just so everyone is aware, there are some recruiters out there, they'll message you, say, I have a really great job. And you look at their profile, it's a fake AI image and they only have one connection.
I
And then
got
they
one
tell
yesterday.
you,
I was like, "Really?" And
wow,
y yes, a government contracting company that I'm very familiar with, and it had their name dot the company name at gmail.com as the email. I was like, "Really? Come on." If you work for that company, you would have company.com, not Gmail. Let's be
Yes.
smart. But yes, but I think that people are falling for it, so they keep doing it. So it's kind of frustrating. But
Yeah,
yeah,
people are falling for it, and I think they need to be aware of it because, yes, everyone, wants to work at these really great companies, but if it's at a Gmail and not at the company domain, like if it says at some company at gmail.com, like at some company.gmail.com, that's not the company. It's some other
yeah. It was a
scammer
great
reaching out.
It was a great phishing email minus the
Yeah.
gmail.com. It was good. I was like, it looked she had the right signature, the whole, logos, everything looked great, sounded right. But yeah, then I look at the email, I'm like, "Oh, man, come on."
Yeah, I get those emails too, and they're from like leading companies, that everyone's heard of. And
Yeah.
you think, wow, this looks really awesome. And then you look at the email closely and no, it's not the company, it's a Gmail. So
Yes.
just so everyone's aware of that, that is going around. I don't think they're going to stop. I think they're going to keep trying and getting more sophisticated.
Yes.
So, Larcy, you have such great experience. I wanted to highlight on your experience with cyber threat intelligence and tabletop exercises. Could you explain some of what it is you do to basically our audience, not only in the security field, but people who might be listening who aren't in the security field?
Sure. So I do two different things. I like personally, my favorite part is really having the practitioners and defenders actually practice their communications when it comes to handling some very stressful situations. But not only practice their communications, but also testing you know, their comms plan, testing what do we do next? Who do we reach out to? How long does it take? I mean, you can test this by, actually picking up the phone. I'm supposed to call this third party assistance when we get to this threshold of where this incident needs third party help. H- Give them a call. Don't tell them, you're coming to test this before you call them. Just call them. Like, let's see on a normal day. We've had these issues. You're my third party, support for this incident. I'm giving you a call, and I want to see how long it takes me to get to the right people, because sometimes they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, I don't know. Let me check let's check my plan where I'm supposed to go when you call me, and just see how long that actually takes." Because if you don't test it in real time, you don't really know. It's all a theory on paper in your IR plan, but until you actually test it, you don't actually know if that's going to work. Phone trees get messed up. You got to make sure those are updated. You gotta make sure that the comms plan that you have in place, there's a backup. Those types of things I really like to have, organizations test and make sure that they're actually working for them. Also, if somebody in the chain of command that you're typically, calling on, what if they're on vacation and there is no way to reach them? They go on a cruise. There is absolutely no who steps in. Who's ready for that? Have you practiced that? Do they know that they're the ones to step in when someone's absent? Those things are really, really important. And then the other thing that I really make sure is like, hey, everybody has their limits of stress in situations. And sometimes you don't know what that is until it actually happens. Well, I will tell you this, if you think that you're going to be able to pick up your 67-page IR plan to help guide you in those stressful situations, that is a really bad idea. Make it something quick and simple, a 2, maybe 3 at most page, cheat sheet to help you because it is a stressful situation. I just want the big, what's most important here, the things that I need to do, and outline those and have those ready and be available maybe in paper, maybe on your desktop, whatever it is where you can access it if the, crap hits the fan and you need to start implementing those responses. So things like that, I like to do when it comes to threat intelligence, bringing that piece in, having some relevance to it. Like, why is this happening? How is it happening? All that background. I mean, just being well aware of what's going on in the world and how it could impact you on a daily basis. That's what threat intelligence people do. They keep you abreast of things that could happen, so you can be ready to and be prepared to either prevent them, but know exactly what to do once it's there because they're ready. This is what we can do in this situation. Here's what we should do based on the intel that we know and we're keeping up with our neighbors, with the same industry, our partners down the street. Why are they being attacked? How did they come up from it last in their situation, like lessons learned. It's way better to learn from you know someone else's incident than have your own. I'll promise you that. I would much rather make the adjustments and be ready for those things based on my friends, which is why sharing is so important in the cybersecurity community, is sharing, how we are, fighting against it, because you might have ideas that are great for your friend down the street, or across the globe, whatever. Share that information so they can take it and implement it so they don't get in the same situation. So the sharing is such a big deal, and I always want to emphasize that. So practicing that, and but yeah, ransomware exercises, everyday exercises that might be simple as insider threat, like what does that look like, what do you do, um yeah, fun stuff.
And I think it also ties into AI security because AI security is everywhere. And we've talked about how if AI goes wrong or it does a mistake, then do you have a contingency plan or do you have an IR plan ready for when that happens? IR is incident response, right? So you need to have a plan in place. And like Larcy is mentioning, is these plans can be very long, 40 pages. But when you're in a stressful situation, just like you said, you don't have time to look at the whole plan. You need an action right away. And I think that's why tabletop exercises are so useful. You mentioned another thing about sharing and how sharing is very important in the cybersecurity community. For those of us in the audience that want to learn more about what communities they need to be involved in or how they get involved with this sharing process, let's say it's a small business and they want to get started with this, what advice would you have for them?
Your state and local government usually have some sort of programs in place to get involved with, and even the FBI has InfraGard. You can join InfraGard and have some people to turn to. But yeah, initially just the government, go to your state websites and see what kind of support they have. A lot of times they have, grants even that they can provide small businesses, especially, critical infrastructure businesses that might have some guidance on cybersecurity or just disaster recovery or whatever, because there's lots of different ways you can get support from your local government, and that's what I would go to first. And then go, as we go out and we meet with people in the community at different organizations, through ISSA, through Women of Security, through whatever community out there, Dallas Hackers Association. We make friends, and that way, when we are in certain situations, we can call our friends and say, "Hey, what do you think about this scenario? Do you have some guidance for it?" But yeah, that's that phone a friend. I think you've been through something like this before. Can you give me some tips? What did you do? How did you handle that? But that would be where I would just start in those capacities.
What are some of the challenges you think the industry faces?
I think just the newness, the change. We all are resistant to change. Change is hard, even if it's small, even if it's great and it's the best thing ever. We still struggle with it because we don't know what to expect, and we're kind of taking a leap. So I think that in AI, we just need to be aware of the risks we're taking by using it, obviously, and just being aware of what we can do in the meantime till we've become comfortable with it. But if you think back, MFA was such a big deal of change that people pushed back against because took it took a little extra step to get logged into your devices or your accounts, and that was kind of a hard thing. But after a couple of years of everyone getting it, it's nobody blinks an eye about it. It's not that big of a deal to do a couple extra clicks to protect your accounts. I think AI, in the way that we're advancing, our ideas and what we can do with it. It's going to be a really amazing tool, and not to be afraid of it in this space right now, but also be aware that it's, it comes with risks, and we need to address those and start small, but just do it. Start small. If implementation, if it's just doing assessments or you know helping guide your brand new analysts on what should be done in certain situations. I don't know, just kind of implement it in that way, but also, don't don't just let it run rampant. Know what's being introduced to your network. Know what works and what doesn't. What kind of, just like SaaS applications, what exposure is it giving? Is it get complete access to your email? Does it get complete access to your contacts? Does it get complete access to other applications that you have, the crown jewels sitting in? What type of access is it getting? Because it is another SaaS application being utilized in a different way. But I think that's just the awareness of what's going on, and how we're utilizing and what data we're allowing it to access and what data we're allowing our users to put in it. So there's a lot of different things. So just get educated on what tools you're using, and make sure that, if something doesn't seem right, you might want to say something. This is always going to be, what if something seems like it's a bug, say something, because right now there are tons of bugs that we're all going to have to pay attention to get things right. So yeah, don't be afraid, but be aware.
Great closing words. Don't be afraid, but be aware. So thank you so much, Larcy, for being on our show. Is there anything else you would like to add?
You know, we are coming up in the spring after this storm, hopefully going to RSA and getting out in the community again. So, don't be afraid to, ask around. How are you using AI today? Because I've only touched, a couple things and it's been great, but there's probably better tools out there. Share those. There is, I cannot think of the name right now, and we can link it later, but there's a group of people that are sharing the ways that they're using AI in everyday life and in security, mostly security. But I found it very, very useful to use tools that you have access to, that maybe you don't have to purchase, but you can build those things on your own, or just to have as useful for your family and friends. So that tool, I can't, or not tool, what group? There's a group, and I can't think of it right now, but I will get back to you on that. But join those groups and learn what you can from your friends. I think it would be very useful. And then I hope to see everyone at RSA, and also next week, I don't know if this is posted by them, but we have our vision board workshop with Women of Security on Tuesday, if the weather allows us to get out. But I'm looking forward to it, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you so much, Larcy. So, like we mentioned, Larcy is part of Women of Security. If you're based in the Dallas area, they have meetings every month, Tuesday nights usually.
Yes.
So make sure to join, and join any local communities related to cybersecurity or AI. It's all about phoning a friend. So thank you so much. And this concludes our show. We'll be back next time with more great conversations. Thank you for listening to the AI Security Update. No hype, just what you need to know. Subscribe to catch the latest episodes, and connect with me, Dr. Anmol, on LinkedIn for more insights from the world of AI security. We'll see you next time.